Hi all, good afternoon. Welcome to ISS National Lab, 6th Annual Investor Event. Thank you all for joining us. We're an exciting lineup of presenters for you today. My name is Sven Ehnma. I'm Director of Investment and Economic Analysis here at ISS National Lab. I'm joined here with my co-MC, Alisa Kaur from our portfolio management team. We have great presenters for you today, but let's first start with a couple slides on where we stand with ISS National Lab, our recent progress. So in fiscal 2021, we have flown 90 payloads, which is comparable to levels we saw in pre-pandemic fiscal 19, despite the COVID delays. And now we have flown more than 500 payloads to ISS. Our business mix remains quite broad, ranging from life sciences, physical sciences, to remote sensing, technology development. And our user mix is quite broad as well, right? Ranging from academic institutions, research organizations, to Fortune 500 companies, as well as startups. Startups and startup community is very important for us, but space is still expensive. Funding needs to be raised to grow and test technologies. And we are super happy to help our companies here in our ecosystem connect with investors in our community and make capital introductions. In fact, by now we are reaching close to 1,000 capital introductions made with VCs and corporate investors. And we're very pleased to see that many of those companies have succeeded raising meaningful amount of capital post being awarded ISS flight project with us. And that total amounts now to over $330 million. So for today, 8 entrepreneurs, exciting stories, all looking to unlock sizable terrestrial market opportunities, leveraging low Earth orbit capabilities. Many of these technologies have already flown to the ISS. Many are yet to fly. Many have flown many times. And so you'll hear great and interesting opportunities here. For networking purposes, we have set up a separate page for you where all the email addresses, all the calendar links are. Please make sure to follow up with the presenters post-event here. And then important page here, we really at ISS National Lab, we are not providing investment advice. Please do your own due diligence, your own analysis, and decide accordingly. So with that, let's go to the presentations. We are very pleased to start off with a discussion on the technology de-risking front with Charles Miller, CEO and co-founder of Link. Link has flown several times to the ISS, testing its technologies. They made tremendous progress on technology and business model front, and congratulations to Charles on today morning's announcements. And with that, I'll turn it over to Charles. In the bottom of the screen, you should see a Q&A function. So if you have questions, please submit them there. Over to you, Charles.
All right, thank you, Sven. So thank you to CASIS, to NASA and the International Space Station Program, and to our partner CEOPS, who was our integrator in this. And so today I'm going to share with you, the Link and the Link technology that we very rapidly use the International Space Station for technical risk reduction. We saved our investors money and innovated much faster by leveraging the International Space Station to prove out the real key milestones in our technology. So I'll give you a little feel of what we're doing and then how we use the ISS. All right, so Link has figured out how to take the mobile phone in your pocket without any change of the phone, no hardware change or software change, and have it stay connected everywhere. We have invented cell towers in space. And when I say cell towers in space, to your phone, your existing phone in your pocket today, it looks like a standard vanilla cell tower. Now that had some technical magic to it that we had to prove out in space, but let me give you some background about this and I'll tell you about it and then how we use the ISS. So first of all, this device, the mobile phone in your pocket and in the pockets of over 5 billion people on this planet, for many people is the most important tool in people's lives. Many people would give up their car before they give up their mobile phone, right? So it kind of gives you superpowers, right? And when it's connected, it has full functionality. And if it's not connected, it's really a lot of pain, right? So what we've invented is what many people didn't think you could invent, is that you will stay connected everywhere on this planet, no matter what, including in the middle of the deepest ocean or the tallest mountain or the most remote or rural area. So I'm going to get into this. So as I said, over 5 billion people have it. Our data is that about 15% of all mobile phone users are disconnected at any point in time. That means 750 million people are feeling pain from disconnectivity at any single point in time. And over a period of a year, about 60% or more than 3 billion people a year experience at least one, instance of extended disconnectivity. So that's a big problem that many people didn't think was solvable. And we have solved it by cell towers in space. So now this has some profound implication. This means that in the future, no matter when, in an emergency, you'll be able to contact somebody and help you out, right? Out of the worst cases. And 80% of people report that this is the #1 buying reason for having a mobile phone for link service. And it's not just those instances. Sometimes nature itself takes out the terrestrial network. And so having a satellite mesh network in space is instant backup. So here you see a tsunami, a tidal wave hitting Japan, earthquakes, fires in California, hurricanes, cyclones all over the planet. So, having, instant backup, no matter what happens, is a matter of saving many lives. So, so the ISS and the space station really can take to heart that its role in accelerating the innovation of Link is literally going to reach out and affect the lives of billions, right? In this case, over 5 billion people. So just a summary of Link, we have proven out the core technology. We just announced this morning, first 2 mobile network operators signed the contracts, Allvar in the Bahamas and Telecel in Central African Republic. They demonstrate 3 key use cases, right? Maritime, remote and rural areas, and Allvar in the Bahamas cares very much about the instant backup for when hurricanes hit. And so we are, is the huge total addressable market, but we got this technology is now proven because of what we've accelerated through the International Space Station. So let me just share this. So we've done 5 cell tower tests in space. The first 4 here were leveraging the International Space Station. The first 3 here were leveraging, this spacecraft. This is an actual photo. This is not doctored. There's no Photoshop, except for this orange arrow to call out our payload that was attached to the space station. This is the space station robotic arm. This payload was attached. It was assembled in orbit by the astronauts. And the reason we did this was we could get to space faster without spending a whole bunch of money on the satellite bus. And we just wanted to test out the payload, the secret sauce of our cell tower in space. And so the first 3 missions we did to space, we saved a lot of money and went faster. We were testing like every 6 months. The first cell tower, the bill of materials is under $100,000. And attached here, this is actually a picture of the first cell tower in space, taken from the International Space Station, from the cupola in February in 2019. We demonstrated a link margin. The second one, we demonstrated the ability to reprogram in orbit. The third one, which went from the space station, same spacecraft, had the world's first text message from space. And the 4th one was still, launched through space station. I want to give thanks not only to the International Space Station program and to CASIS, which provided some funding, but as well as to CEOPS, who was our launch integrator. And then we're on our 5th cell tower in space, which we're going to make a big announcement next week on a technical milestone. But this week, we're announcing the world's first 2 MNOs who signed our contracts. But I want to leave you with this picture. This is where they assembled it, for the Link payload on the nose of the spacecraft. This is the 3rd payload of those 5 you saw. And this is the one that sent the world's first text message from space to standard mobile phones last year in February 2020. But I'll stop there, and they've asked me to free up some time to ask some questions that you may have.
Thanks very much, Charles. This is very interesting. You clearly have made a strong progress here. Would be great to hear about also like plans for the first initial markets and how big of a constellation part you expect to get up and running by that time. I know you have booked some flights on SpaceX, the rideshare side of things, but it would be great to hear about that part of the story as well.
Well, we think the market is a $300 to $400 billion market. It's solving a real big problem, a global problem we call the zero-G problem. And you know, it really grows into a $1 trillion a year global wireless market, and solving a problem people didn't think could be solved. It's now been solved. And now it's about, if you roll up the analysis in such a big issue, and not only it's connecting existing users everywhere, the 5.2 billion, there's another billion to billion and a half people who have no coverage where they live and work, and they all now have a compelling reason to get a phone now. And they can get a, you know, a really cheap, even refurbished feature phone and stay connected and have the benefits. So it's $300 to $400 billion growth opportunity. So we've filed for our FCC license. We're planning to develop a constellation of 5,000 satellites, and we have talking to a lot of strategic investors and financial investors right now. We're getting ready to raise our Series B. But there's a lot of excitement about what we're doing. It's a really big breakthrough, our technology.
Yeah, it's definitely is a great story, and there is a lot to be unlocked here. And sounds like initial footprint then will be, was it 10 satellites, 20 satellites? What's the initial?
Well, their initial license, we're taking advantage of the FCC streamlined process to go faster, is just a license for 10. But we're going to go with a follow-up application for all 5,000. But we're going to be providing commercial service by July 2022, less than 10 months away.
Wow.
We're going to provide commercial service, and the satellite we have in orbit today could be grandfathered into that. So we're launching our next satellite in January. Our sixth one, our seventh cell tower in space is launched in April, and then we're ramping up next year. And we're going to start with global periodic messaging, you know, so we don't need to have 5,000 satellites to provide a service. If we have 100 satellites up, you get a periodic service, you get an overpass depending on your latitude every 5 to 20 minutes. And that's $1 billion a year revenue business easily, because you have 5 billion people on the planet who are disconnected, they'll pay for messaging, even if it's periodic when you have nothing. Right, it could save their life, and it totally changes the economics of farmers and boaters and hikers, and just makes people have peace of mind.
Great, yeah. There is the questions from audience here in terms of is it backup for everyone? And I think you answered that it's yes, the case. It's not just the remote regions; it's global intent.
Absolutely, we will be in a 500-kilometer orbit. And those satellites pass over basically everybody, so it's backup for everyone. And if you have a hurricane or cyclone in your region and it takes it out, or an earthquake or a tsunami, this is instant backup. So this is International Space Station technology, business is going to directly impact the lives of billions, and it's not too far in the future. When we're thinking about 5 years, kids are going to be born that can't imagine that there was ever a time that you were disconnected.
There we go. And the last question here before we turn over to Alyssa is a question about the Series B. I think this is obviously, there's an opportunity to connect with Charles via our networking page and scheduling site as well. But is there anything you'd like to say about that at this point?
Well, just connect with me. I mean, there's always restrictions, right? Where there's certain types of, we're a U.S. satellite company, we can't take money from certain types of things. But in most cases, I don't think it's usually not a problem. And we'll we'll happy to talk and connect and if somebody's interested.
Great. Really appreciate it, Charles. Thanks so much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lisa to introduce the other presenting companies.
Thanks, Ben. All right, I'm excited for us to get started. We have allocated 4 minutes per company presentation, and then we'll have 1 to 2 minutes at the end for Q&A at the end of each presentation. For the Q&A, same thing, you'll use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And with that, our first presenter is Rob Singh, Chief Technology Officer of Space. Rob, are you there?
I'm here, Alyssa. Thank you very much. And Sven, pleasure to be here. I just want to get this one set up. Listen, I know the time is short, but I was excited to sort of go through what we're doing at Spacelink and how it's tied in with what's been tremendous support from ISS National Labs and CASIS as well. Spacelink, jumping right in, is always want to see what was our issue and what we were trying to resolve in. It's sometimes easier to just talk about what our where we were targeting, and a little different than what Charles was going through with Lynx, which is a comms solution in LEO. What we had noticed is the LEO market particularly is very well optimized for Earth observation data collection and capture. But that same LEO orbit, on the flip side, is creating a very challenging bottleneck in terms of delivery of data coming back to ground network and even tasking. So this limited downlink ground station, you can almost see in this animation a LEO satellite operating in polar. As it passes the North Pole or South Pole, is able to establish a link for a small period of time in each path. And so that's where we're sort of indicating that that limited capability to task the satellite and to pull its data down can be as far down as 6% access time. What Spacelink what we've been able to set up, both from an architecture perspective and a business sort of outlay, is to provide a service to the LEO satellites. And in this case, that same LEO satellite that's orbiting, now you're seeing 4 MEO satellites, medium Earth orbit, that are positioned at a certain altitude in such a way that we have 100% line of sight access to the LEO assets that are flying. And in a combination of inter-satellite links that are optical and gateway links that are in the radio frequency or RF domain, we're able to bring that data down to the ground, and also from ground command task that satellite, achieving a real-time downlink and a real-time tasking. One additional aspect of that is actually utilizing our inter-satellite links in the lower animation to even show how what we're actually achieving is real-time access, and we can bring the signal down to any point on the Earth that's desired by our clients. In this case, it's a US landing point. You know, what that gives us, and this is shown in the upper right here, is in our domain of the overall network, a constellation of MEO satellites that are giving us access to the LEO assets. We're flying at 14,000 kilometers. We're providing that access to the LEO satellites that are flying above 350 kilometers. Our end result is actionable intelligence with on-demand tasking and downlink of mission-critical data. A number of benefits are here for this, particularly when we are looking at Earth observation data. We've purposely designed our system with an architecture balance and emerging technologies. Our links to our clients are optical and RF. Our links to the ground and gateway is in the RF domain. Of our sites, we can actually move the client data to their desired area through a cloud delivery direct access system. It's always tough to sort of go through the whole thing, but that was the problem that we were working with, and that's the solution we've got in place. We're moving rapidly and we're on track. LEO market is expanding. We're seeing that with the launch costs plummeting. We're seeing it with satellites in orbit are increasing. We're seeing a total addressable market that's immense and growing. And where we are targeting certain clients, this is where ISS National Labs came into play in cases. One of our terminals will be placed on the station and providing from that LEO client perspective, or that from station, a link from station to our Spacelink MEO constellation, and then from our constellation to ground, and providing a very capable link on the order of 10 gigabits per second, always on and accessible for station clients. We've done that work with our integration partner, Axiom, as well, and so we're very excited to kick off this activity for cases and bring this forward. We've got a good team of within the space sector in terms of experience of doing what we need to do, and that's sort of shown here. We're going through a very near-term addressable market that's very targeted for us and building our revenue stream. Customers are in our pipeline already, and MOUs are in place with a number of them as we're getting ready for the market launch. And our initial services will be offered starting 2024, which means that we're actually in our both space segment and ground segment build phase right now. My last chart was sort of just describing that we came through an optimization phase in our build, optimization of our design. We've now initiated our build phase, which will be going into a launch in 2024. And in parallel with that, this phase has also brought a certain number of strategic investors to us, and that's our target up to Q1 2022 of a combination of strategic and industrial partner investors into our target fundraising. Following that, we'll be going into our financial investor base starting 2022 through 2023. There we're expecting multiple rounds as we bring in VC or private equity type investment in. And then similar to our build, will be operational in 2024. That brings us our positive free cash flow generation and opens up the door for exit, off-ramping, and actually the way we've built our system, scalable, so that from our block one generation and initial customer support, we're able to scale and build in additional capability and resources going forward. I think that brings me sort of the conclusion of this very rapid sort of description of what Spacelink is doing. We're very excited about that from our company side, and we look forward to fielding any questions and providing any more information. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate the insight here. There is an audience question on when is the ISS comms expected to start? That's one question, and I would kind of tack into that another question, which is, what is the requirement for like a terminal side of your, I guess, customers, right? Customers are getting funded. There's clearly being more launched. There is real market there, but what's the terminal requirement there?
So twofold. So first of all, our own constellation will be launched at the end of 2023, start of 2024, and so we're targeting service operation mid 2024. After all our proof out and activity, the cases scope of with ISS National Lab will be one of those first entrants. So we will have already launched and deployed a terminal on the station, and then it would be available for us to establish link and start in that mid 2024 timeframe. And then Sven, you were asking about our product portfolio. That I spoke a lot about Spacelink and the constellation we're building, but you're absolutely right. There's a client segment where terminals that the clients are flying to integrate into our network. We've done two things there. We've leveraged heavily work that's currently happening under the Space Development Agency and Space Force for optical comm and optical terminals, particularly in the proliferated LEO arena. So terminal sizes ranging in the order of sub 3 kilogram, 10 kilogram, or up to 20 kilograms in terms of mass, and equivalent sort of power that's, you know, sub 50 watts to or more in that range is sort of our target for the terminals that are being put in, and all of that sort of brings the benefit of data links, which can be quite substantial in terms of bandwidth as we go into 2 gigabit per second type links or larger.
Great, thanks so much, Rob. Really appreciate it. And with that, I'll turn it back to Alyssa.
And our next presentation is going to be from Twyman Clements, the CEO and co-founder of Space Tango. Twyman, are you with us?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. All right, so thank you all very much. Again, my name is Twyman Clements. I'm with Space Tango. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Space Tango, sitting in our office at our ops station based in Lexington, Kentucky, although we have people at several different locations throughout the country. So what we do, so what Space Tango does is we use space-based platforms to determine and capitalize on scalable manufacturing applications which utilize microgravity as a value add. Our aim is to really take these applications and drive them to full-scale manufacturing and productization. And the way we kind of look at that is that microgravity, through the work that we've done with the ISS National Lab, NASA and other partners, has really allowed us, really humanity broadly speaking, to use zero gravity just like we use any other physical parameter, like electromagnetism, heat, vacuum, pressure, to take raw material and create a finished product. And now that we have regular access to the ISS, we're able to iterate, explore, and figure out what applications where microgravity really can bring something, can take those raw materials and create a finished product. And we've done that over the last couple of years with our Tango Lab and Cube Lab product lines. What we've done so far is we've built a diverse customer base across several different use cases. We've designed and implemented several different products which are on operation on the ISS right now. And again, our ops center is right behind me, where we have payloads operating right now on the ISS. We've executed automated experimentation of microbiology, cell culture, layer deposition, and material science work to date across many different missions and over 100 different payloads that have been developed. One other thing that we've done so far is we've assembled a vertically integrated team across engineering, science, manufacturing, and our flight operations. And that vertical integration has really allowed us to squeeze out efficiencies, use the space station pipeline as efficiently as we can, so that we can get that quick iteration, but also so that we can have that good quality. We're at 32 people right now and constantly hiring across Lexington, Kentucky, where we're based, Cape Canaveral, Houston at the Johnson Space Center, as well as people in the Washington, D.C. area. So this next slide shows a video of the installation of some of our equipment. This uses, for those of you who are familiar with the space station and experimentation on the space station, uses an express rack locker volume, uses a Cube Lab standard, one that we developed. I came from myself from the CubeSat world, co-founded Space Tango while I was in graduate school, and used this as this kind of experiment platform for us to do kind of early stage research and development and really figure out directional knowledge about what applications where zero gravity does have this value add. And really, I think where we are unique, Space Tango, is how we're going to take those use cases that have directional value and how we take those towards commercialization. So I'll move to my next slide here. What we define as middleware, and for everybody to kind of think about the space ecosystem broadly, is we are between the spacecraft infrastructure, your rockets and your spacecraft, and the research and use cases. Because there has to be something in between that interface with both sides, and we kind of call that broadly middleware. And that's our specialty. It's bringing that together. Our current product line, Tango Lab and Cube Lab, have accelerated the rate of research, but there still needs to be a way to do it even faster, so that we can identify and refine these use cases to bring them to market. And that's something you'll see in some of our future plans. Our core competencies run across the range of engineering and science to take these ideas and implement them successfully in microgravity, including fluidics, microscopy, thermal control, the automation, as well as getting these through the NASA safety process and the quality control to ensure that we have good, successful payloads that operate on orbit. Our next slide here shows what makes us different, or really what makes us unique. The role of a payload developer is a unique one in this. If you think about microgravity and space R&D and manufacturing, because our vantage point is unique in that we can identify what applications are valuable and how they could be scaled or optimized for a production in a space architecture. One of the unique things we're doing is when we identify a use case that does have value or potential for a manufacturing use case, we pursue and are working to pursue joint ventures with those partners to really create unique entities that can then attract the investment needed to take these use cases to market. And that's what over the last couple of years has allowed us to build this kind of diverse portfolio of use case applications. Any investment in Space Tango itself would allow for those equity holders to have equity across that diverse portfolio. Now, to what you see on the right-hand side of the screen, you can think of our business in three different areas. The top and bottom are what we've historically done, which is research that has been funded either through private industry, like pharmaceutical or nonprofit research institutes, the NSF, NASA, the NIH, as well as the ISS National Lab. On the top is kind of what we call our space station services, where we lease the equipment we've developed to other users such as NASA. But those two combined allow us to, as I talked about, identify those compelling use cases, break them off into different kind of business structures, and pursue this microgravity manufacturing, which is the real payoff for the company and for the investors. So the two business verticals that we have now really enable that third one to pursue that manufacturing. On the next slide, this really talks about where we're going. We're designing kind of the next version of the equipment that we think accelerates the rate of research and identifying of use cases, as well as with our eye towards how do you actually scalably produce things in zero gravity. Our Tango Lab V2 optimizes our systems right now, particularly for the life science applications for use across all phases of flight, and allows for better optimization of what has to be in different temperature zones, which is a big constraint, as you can imagine, when you're flying on a constrained vehicle such as a Dragon, a Cygnus, or eventually a Dream Chaser. The Tango Box is a concept that we recently released, and it was part of a release that we just did with Sierra Space of a reimagined glove box that allows for different setup of different experiments, but includes robotics and internal robotics for the manipulation of fluids, movement to analytical stations or to incubation stations, that takes the astronaut out of the loop and allows for some flexibility in terms of executing science in zero gravity. So the last thing, the last slide I'll show is how we'll get there. We're pursuing, we raised seed funding a few years ago and have been self-sustaining since that point. But we've really built out the technology and the first group of use cases for us to really now pursue a Series A investment to enact that kind of vision that we see. Part of that is scaling our organization from across all divisions, but particularly our science and kind of business development teams. The second part is for us to really enact that joint venture or other model to really take use cases that we've developed in Space Tango, the mothership, and give them the best path to success for manufacturing and taking those applications to market. And then the second part, and then the last part is for us to really build out that second generation of use cases that we see that will be an accelerant to the microgravity manufacturing application that you saw in our chart a few charts ago. So the last thing I'll leave you with, this shows our slide shows all of our mission patches of all the missions that we've done over the last few years, each one building on a technology or a use case, and as well, like I said, we have a couple of payloads on orbit right now with SpaceX 23, with another 7 flying in December on SpaceX 24. So again, my name is Twyman Clements. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Space Tango. There was a lot covered there, but we really appreciate the National Lab bringing this group together to present who we are and what we're doing. And I'll wrap it up and see if there are any questions.
Great, thanks, Twyman. This is very informative, and obviously your experience in terms of flying payloads and understanding the kind of economics and opportunity to this, like the smallest detail, is very impressive here.
Yeah,
just one question here, given we're short on time. When you think about the broader opportunity, right? U.S. spends over $500 billion on R&D in a year. And I saw you did an agreement or announcement here with Sierra Space recently. How do you think about the market in general? How big could it get?
Yeah, well, it's less about the microgravity research market. It's about what use cases are valuable and what is the market of those independent use cases. So as an example, and I'm talking generally here, but using an example, one that's always been talked about is organ 3D printing or organ recellularization or other things like that. Zero gravity can be helpful in potentially creating organs in one way or another. So then what is the market of potential use cases or the organ donation market? And then of course, what are the reimbursement rates on that and other things like that? And that's why, we use that kind of joint venture or kind of use case model, because each one is different. We have to think about zero gravity as enabling technologies in a variety of different fields. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of answer a question that I saw come up. What are the most compelling use cases? We break those into kind of 3 areas. There's materials, there's groups that are doing work in glass fibers, doing some work on carbon nanotubes. There's layer deposition work. We've been working for several years now with a group that are working on retinal implants. And then the third is really the biologics, which itself has many different use cases, but looking at the maintenance of pluripotency of stem cells for potential kind of next-gen therapeutics. And as you start to, Sven, for somebody like you as an economist, you really have to see each of those use cases and the total addressable market for each of those. And that's why we kind of think about it as a portfolio.
No, that's very helpful, and please make sure to take time to connect with Twyman and Space Tango team here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alyssa for the next presenter.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Twyman. Our next presenter is Max Gold, CEO and co-founder of Constellar. Max, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thanks. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Excellent. So thanks. My name is Max. I'm the CEO of Constellar, and we will use microsatellites to revolutionize food security from space. So within this decade, we need to solve the problem of food security, and food production is essentially driven by water, making the correct application of water the key enabler for efficient and predictable farming. And this is particularly true in the times of climate change. Already today, the lack of water, or so-called water stress, is the main cause of reduced crop yields. And the inability to measure this water stress accurately leads to unpredictable and most often poor harvests. And this affects then the whole production and supply chain, from the viability of farms on the one hand to the price of food on the other hand. The problem is that current technology is not fit for purpose to solve this problem. Ground-based solutions are too expensive to scale globally, while space-based solutions, which in principle can scale, of course, cannot deliver water stress data quickly and accurately enough. And this means ultimately that we have imprecise or delayed data, and this leads to irreversible crop damage. At Constellar, we'll provide the first solution by giving access to high precision temperature data at field level, daily and globally. And this will then enable water stress detection in time to prevent yield loss as well as dramatically reduce uncertainty in crop yield forecasting. So this is a very interesting application also to not only secure the production, but also the market side. Our patent pending architecture allows to perform precise thermal infrared monitoring on a microsatellite. This means that for a fraction of the cost of an ESA or NASA satellite, we can install a whole swarm on orbit and reducing the monitoring cost by a factor of 30. And this is something which none of our competitors can do. They either have to compromise on the data quality by using relatively small spacecraft and not good sensors, or on the cost by using traditional larger spacecraft. And this is making us the only affordable solution for high quality thermal data. Our customers are geoanalytics and agritech companies. There are a couple of pilots ongoing and a couple of pilots, more pilots planned, and they can use our temperature maps to generate water stress data to predict and optimize crop health more accurately than ever before. We've validated our value proposition with companies in the 28 billion euro entry market, for which we anticipate a leading global market position by 2026. And I'm proud to say that I believe we have the best team on the planet to actually make this happen. Our team includes aerospace engineers, obviously, data scientists, and entrepreneurs from world-class organizations, such as Fraunhofer, OHB, and even Planet, or formerly Planet Labs. The strong management team combines experience from science and technology, the aerospace, environmental sectors, and business administration skills, as well, obviously, as with the startup drive. And in the next 6 months, we're going to go from lab to space. And as you might have guessed, the space part is going to happen on the ISS. So we're currently conducting an aerial pilot over northern Germany, and we'll then release our data platform by the end of the year. We also hand over our pilot to Houston. And yeah, we've secured the prototype payload launch on this International Space Station in February next year. This means that we're now literally in this exciting times for us. I mean, most of the predecessors have already been to space. I haven't. But this means that we're literally a few months away from launch, and we anticipate the constellation to be fully operational in late 2023. So what does this mean for us back on the planet? By 2026, so within 5 years, we'll be able to provide key data for water stress monitoring covering 1/4 of globally irrigated cropland. And this will unlock a massive impact in increased harvest size and predictability, in particular in the times of climate change. A reduction of water waste in agriculture by 180 gigatons, avoiding nearly 100 million tons of CO2, feeding additional 350 million people on this planet, and creating a gross agriculture value of more than 80 billion euro across the globe. The challenge, however, is urgent. There are only 9 years left to change the course in feeding the world sustainably, according to the FAO. And we believe we have the potential to be a game changer in data for food security. So if you would be interested in help us driving this global agriculture transition, as we're going to announce our next funding rounds next month, actually only 9 days left, please contact me. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks very much, Max. This is, I mean, obviously very topical, very important area. How do you think about the kind of physical assets in orbit versus vertical integration through analytics? How do you guys plan to approach that? Are you mostly providing data, or are you going down to the end user?
Yeah, so we're going to do both, and we're already in the conceptual stage on how to do this. Initially, we need to solve the data problem for ourselves, because in order to do the analytics properly, we need to create the satellite data infrastructure, or the satellite infrastructure in space, as a means to an end. But in the end, we're not going to be a satellite company as much as we'd like to, but we're going to be a data company, and we're going to provide the fundament also to do the analytics. So the idea is, to make it a bit more concrete, is that we are currently having pilots with partners, and when we are developing solutions with these partners together to a certain step. We're not going to go directly to the end user, which means to the farmer, but we're going to the distributors, to the governments, to those who need a, let's say, a solution which is scalable and not a solution which is very much individual. And they can then provide the last mile, the last step to the farmer. That's the plan. Great.
And last question here is, in terms of which crops would benefit the most, what would be the lowest hanging fruit, I guess?
Yes, there are 3 crop types. So generally, I would say every crop which is most water sensitive. There are 3 crop types which in particular come to mind. The first one is potatoes. It's a cash crop, and it's very water sensitive. The second one is, you might have seen on the second slide, this massively shrunk sugar beet. That's another one. And there are a couple of other crops, so it's not 3 actually, it's then more, which are also very interesting, including tomatoes, rice, certain types of maize, not all maize, but certain types of maize, grapes. So there are a couple of, I think especially rice, wheat, and maize are going to be the ones which are going to drive that, because they are providing a large fraction of the global calories.
Awesome. Very insightful. Thanks so much, Max. Back to you, Alison.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ben. Just want to plug a quick reminder that in the chat is a link to the scheduling page. So if you want to contact any of our presenters, please follow that link and you can set up time with them. Our next presenter is James Monroe, the CEO and founder of Allvar. James, please go ahead and take it away.
Oh, okay. At Allvar, we manufacture the only metal in the world that shrinks when heated and expands when cooled. Here are 2 samples, aluminum on top and Allvar on the bottom. Both were cut to the same length at room temperature and frozen in liquid nitrogen. If we keep the left side flush, we look to the right side and see the aluminum shrank and the Allvar expanded. And if we were to heat them, the opposite would occur. Allvar's opposite response opens the door for optics manufacturers to make smaller and lighter designs. And when it comes to military operations, every ounce counts, from a soldier's helmet to a satellite and everywhere in between. For example, the soldier's helmet system has a strict 5-pound weight limit, 3 for the helmet and 2 for the optic. Inside the optic are 3 thermal stabilizing tubes that are necessary to keep it in focus in extreme temperatures. The problem is, optics manufacturers are locked into this 3-tube design. To solve this problem, we created Allvar alloy rings and tubes, the only metal components in the world that shrink when heated and expand when cooled. Our patented alloy opens the door for optics manufacturers to redesign the complex tube system and replace it with a single stabilizing component, reducing weight up to 20% and length up to 40%. And the savings can be reallocated to reinforce a soldier's helmet. The market for metal housings and optic assemblies is just over $2 billion in the US annually. That includes everything from mobile phone cameras to military optics. Those military housings make up $570 million, and our serviceable obtainable market is $114 million. Our minimum viable product is cost comparable with other metal components in current optic housings and can be directly applied to other high-tech applications like super and hypersonic flight, and eventually augmented and virtual reality as we reduce cost through scaling. So what do engineers think of our technology? Well, one at Nightforce said, "It works as advertised, very impressed. How much would 3,000 cost?" And one at Space Dynamics said, "If you had the right test data, you could fly in the Roman Space Telescope." These are just 2 of the many optics manufacturers that have purchased material and are looking to integrate Allvar into their current optic designs. They're excited to work with us because while there are many manufacturers of semi-finished preformed aluminum and titanium for the optics industry, none of them has a material like Allvar's that shrinks when heated and expands when cooled. I'm James Monroe, the founder and CEO of Allvar, and we've got an excellent team with over 50 combined years experience in alloy processing and manufacturing, and over 50 combined years experience in optics sales and marketing, including a former Navy SEAL who has fielded over 30 first ever optics on the battlefield. Since 2014, we've taken our technology from the lab to the real world. We're finalizing our quality management system by the end of the year and are working with manufacturers to qualify our material for use in their applications. We've secured just over $2 million in dilution-free government contracts for technical development, but that doesn't pay for other costs like IP capture, customer acquisition, and business operations. It's for this reason we're seeking $500K in equity investment. Allvar, the only alloy in the world that shrinks when heated and expands when cooled, enabling redistribution of an optic weight to reinforce a soldier's helmet. Thank you.
Great, thanks, James. Definitely impressive kind of progress you've made in terms of, and the customers you had on the slide there, in terms of gaining traction and kind of paving the path of programs of record, which are not easy thing to do, right? What do you think about the kind of scale-up model for your company? What is, you listed pretty big market opportunities there. When do you see, the cost coming down? How big of scale you need to get material scale?
So really, at that 9,000 unit cost that I showed, that's where we start, actually at about 3,000 units. We start to become cost comparable with other titanium components. So it really, in our current production facilities, we can hit those right now. And that's pretty exciting. Yeah, so that kind of, does that answer your question?
Yes, that's the question. Is an audience also is like in terms of when do you can get to larger scale, how long it takes, but it sounds like it is, you're almost there in terms of capability.
Exactly. So you can kind of see this is actually a telescope strut, and it just requires a little tube of Allvar, and we have the capability to manufacture up to 3-inch OD tube in 10-meter long sections, and up to 2-inch solid bar in 10-meter long sections as well. So we can accommodate a lot of those smaller devices with a single lot of material.
Oh, great. And last question is in terms of IP position, where do you guys stand? What's the IP strategy?
Sure. We have 2 issued patents, and then we've got several on the drawing board, both for the material. It's a product by process that we license from Texas A&M University, as well as specific applications, including refractive optics and reflective telescope optics.
Got it. Great. Thanks so much, James. Back to you, Elisa.
Thanks, Ben. Our next presenter is Amrit Day, CEO and Chief Scientist of Upcycle. Amrit, the floor is yours. Ready?
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amrit, and as Elisa said, I'm the CEO and Chief Scientist for Upcycle, and today I would like to talk about our company's vision for setting up photonic device fabrication facilities in low Earth orbit. As you all know, there is an ongoing drive to establish a low Earth orbit economy, and that is why many of us are here today. Us physicists often design novel photonic devices that are sometimes impossible to fabricate on Earth. And many a times over the years, we have also come up with various material growth techniques that can sometimes result in high yield and cheaper products, but they're not grown very well, and they're not very precise when fabricated on Earth, and sometimes more expensive device fabrication methods or material growth methods are needed. So in order to mitigate this, we understand that space offers some very unique manufacturing opportunities. The absence of gravity can lead to things like levitation, suppression of sedimentation, which is particularly important for some of these exotic glass optical fibers. Because of the ultra-high vacuum of space, we can have very low contamination, because now the vacuums are about 1,000x more powerful than what the best vacuum pumps can produce on Earth. There are certain key physical properties which are amplified, such as surface tension and capillary forces. Our adventures in space have accidentally led to other discoveries that were not expected, such as cold welding. And all of this is backed up by about 40 years of NASA research. So what are some of the products that Upcycle is targeting? Well, we are primarily interested in one-dimensional photonic systems. That is, we are interested in fabricating ultra-low loss and ultra-high bandwidth exotic glass optical fibers. We are interested in fabricating superior fiber amplifiers and supercontinuum light sources, and specialty doped fibers. We are also interested in two-dimensional quantum materials based photonic devices and systems. This could lead to novel sensors, squids, etc. We are interested in hybrid devices. And of course, along the way, we are also developing a number of technology transfer products, such as novel sensors and data collection devices. And we are also working on understanding how artificial intelligence can lead to automation for some of these low Earth orbit manufacturing, photonics manufacturing modules. Our business plan is as follows. We would like to use cheaper and widely available materials. And we also want to use certain fabrication techniques that can offset the costs of setting up these facilities in low Earth orbit. We are also targeting materials that have low toxicity. And in general, we're adopting an engineering process that would minimize risks. We're building hardware that's easy to maintain, and we want to be clever about how we engineer some of our modules for these fabrication facilities. We have an up-mass, down-mass business model. So for example, we estimate that if we can transport about 600 kilograms of exotic glasses, then this could generate about $2.6 billion in gross revenue for some of the returned one-dimensional photonic products. The commercial market for this is quite promising. The global photonics market is currently valued at about $500 billion. It was valued at $500 billion in 2020, and it's expected to reach about $1 trillion by 2026. And it has a cumulative growth rate of about 7%. Now, out of this, the market sector for just infrared, mid-infrared sensors is worth about 110. It would be worth about 110 billion by 2025. The market segment for fiber optics and fiber lasers is projected to reach $11 billion by 2025. The market for these two-dimensional materials is still a little bit small, but it's still expected to reach about 700 million in a few years' time. All of these devices have widespread applications, as many of you know, for ultra high bandwidth, low loss communications, remote sensing, metrology, military applications such as directed energy systems, planetary defense, novel sensors for artificial intelligence, displays, virtual reality, medical applications, and of course for quantum information and for qubits. We have a very strong handpicked team. My background is primarily in condensed matter physics and optics, and I have had some pretty extensive experience in academia and in industry also. Similarly, I have handpicked a number of other physicists, condensed matter physicists, and material growth experts, because these methods and these techniques are highly nuanced, and there are certain subtle differences. So we have used our network to recruit some of these people, and we continue to do so. We have some very good advisors, both on the business front and on the legal front also. Currently, we have received some NASA funding for developing a sophisticated and advanced AI-assisted fiber production prototype. We are currently undergoing our space qualification testing, and we expect to
Great, then thanks very much, Femred. Just one quick question. Obviously, there's big barriers of entry here once you can figure out the manufacturing side of things. How many flights do you think you need to get the minimum viable product here?
We think that we could probably do it in about 3 flights, 3 iterations of the prototypes. The prototypes can go up, and then after some extensive testing, I think by about our 3rd prototype, we expect to be able to have something that might be that would be close to a production unit.
Got it. Thanks so much. Back to you, Elisa.
Thanks, Sven, and thanks, Amrit. So our next and final 2 presentations are both life sciences startups with and they're winners of the Technology and Space Prize competition that's in partnership with Boeing at Mass Challenge. So with that, our next presenter is Youssef Erkal, CEO and co-founder of Kernel Biologics. Youssef, are you with us?
Thank you, Elisa. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Youssef Erkal, co-founder and CEO of Kernel Bio, and it's a pleasure to be here at the ISS Investor event. Messenger RNA 1.0 was really great for vaccine development, as we personally witnessed with COVID-19 vaccines, but unfortunately, it lacks the cell specificity that is needed for the therapeutic development of mRNA. Kernel Biologics has conquered the cell specificity hurdle that companies like Moderna couldn't jump over. Meet mRNA 2.0. mRNA 2.0 is precisely programmed to know where to go, what to treat, and what to leave alone in the body. And we've started with cancer. Our lead messenger RNA, KR333, is able to shrink tumors in mice that are resistant to existing drugs. And it does so without any safety issues. We plan to complete the development of this candidate in 9 months and begin clinical testing later next year, and then go public in Q1 of 2023. With roots at MIT, Harvard, and biopharma industry, the team previously built a successful biotech company and has deep technical expertise in messenger RNA space. I'm a medical doctor, and my research at Merck resulted in an FDA-approved drug for ovarian cancer. Burak founded his first biotech company, Centogen, at age 22 and has over 10 years of experience in RNA design. Maria, our Chief Business Officer, is a seasoned business development executive with over 25 business development deals at Dyax, Dicerna, Radius, and Genevant. Our Director of Immuno-Oncology, Monia, led external innovation programs at Pfizer and developed an FDA-approved vaccine while at Novartis. Jaffer is a PhD data scientist from MIT, and Tom started his career as a formulation scientist also at Merck, and recently developed lipid nanoparticle formulations at Verve Therapeutics, which supported their successful IPO recently. Last year, Kernel joined Y Combinator and raised over $10 million from investors. We grew the team with amazing hires and achieved key technical milestones. We successfully completed our microgravity oncoselectivity screen study, which was funded, as mentioned earlier, by ISS US National Labs, CASES, and Boeing. And this work was actually featured on major media outlets such as CNN. We are currently overwhelmed with inbound interest from biopharma companies who are interested on our messenger RNA 2.0 platform. And we plan to close our first BD deal with a major pharmaceutical company in Q4 of this year. While all this was happening, messenger RNA 1.0 itself got massively de-risked in the clinic with over 200 million Americans getting mRNA vaccines for COVID-19. That's kernel in a kernel. If you're interested in partnering with us to bring mRNA 2.0 to the clinic, please feel free to reach out to me at yusuf@kernelbio.com. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Yusuf. It's been tremendous to see the progress you guys have made. And it's obviously there is, sounds like there is a big area with mRNA 2.0 to address. You've studied in the oncology side of things. I read somewhere that you also have, in addition to the specific drug targets, you also have a licensing strategy to kind of even broader the spectrum of revenue opportunities. Do you mind to say a little bit about that?
Absolutely, Sven. Very briefly, Kernel actually ended up developing a messenger RNA platform that has potential use cases outside of oncology as well. This we typically refer to as our stealth messenger RNA capability, where we basically sequence engineer the messenger RNA to make it less immunogenic and more potent for both therapeutic applications as well as for example, second-generation vaccine development. So we've been in conversations, advanced conversations with some of the key players in the field in the RNA vaccination and also biologics development fields who are really deeply interested in seeing the next generation of messenger RNAs that are really computationally designed and biologically engineered to make them less detectable and more potent in the human body. So they can potentially have wider therapeutic index and better tolerability in humans.
Great. And the last question here is, you mentioned the 4Q expected BD deal. What else, what other milestones should investors keep their eye out on ahead of your IND announcements here?
So the first deal that we plan to actually undertake will involve a major collaboration with a larger biopharma company. I'm not at liberty to disclose the details before actually closing the deal, but I'm happy to note that there is so much interest that we had to actually prioritize some of these BD discussions over our other business engagements because mRNA itself is now being actively de-risked as we speak. That there is very deep interest from big pharmaceutical companies side. They want to actually bring their own biologic payloads with messenger RNA to the clinic now. So mRNA also actually is ideal for a number of use cases where traditional modalities really haven't been able to deliver on key milestones. These are the kind of things that we think we can are partners with, while keeping a close, narrow focus on immuno-oncology for our internal programs. On the internal pipeline, we're very much focused on oncology.
Awesome. Great. Thanks so much, Yusuf. Back to Alyssa here.
Thank you, Sven.
Thanks, Sven. And our last presentation, our closer is Joanna Stanica, CEO and co-founder of Exondys Therapeutics. Joanna, are you with us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Alyssa. Wow, what a great bunch of presentations, I have to say. Really enjoyed it, and thank you, Sven, so much for invitation. And hi, everyone. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Exondys Therapeutics. We are reviving neurons to restore control, and our mission broadly is translating cutting-edge science into disease-modifying CNS therapeutics for urgent and unmet medical needs. Just an executive summary, we are a lab central-based seed-stage therapeutics company operating since 2020, and we raised about $9 million in seed funding and raised about $1 million of non-dilutive funding, including funding from NIH, SBIR, and ISS National Lab. I can proudly say ISS National Lab was the very first funding Exondys received altogether, so we're very grateful for the trust and faith you had in our technology and team. We also received 2 golden tickets from sponsored by pharma, which allowed us to set up our lab operations in Lab Central. We have a pipeline of novel CNS technologies based on world-class discoveries at Harvard and Boston Children's Hospital, with the lead program that's significantly de-risked at the lead selection stage with pre-IND in Q1 next year. We put together a management advisory team of experts in neuroscience drug development to take these exciting technologies to clinic. So here's our fantastic team. I'm the CEO and co-founder and also IP inventor. I've been building Exonis for the last 2.5 years after doing research work in various places, including Harvard Medical School, Boston Children's Hospital. When I started, Exonis didn't have any employees. In fact, I wasn't even an employee at the beginning. There was a different program in there, but I have to say we've really put it on a great track in the last 2 years. I have a fantastic group of experienced advisors and mentors, including Corey Goodman, a serial drug developer, an entrepreneur, biotech entrepreneur with huge successes. He's also a very accomplished neuroscientist in this area. He's our executive chairman. We also have got a fantastic science advisory board that helps us obviously to steer the science in the right direction, that covers all the areas of interest to Exonis. So I don't have to convince anybody here. I think that disease-modifying CNS therapeutics are urgent, unmet, and growing needs, and our technologies uniquely enable intrinsic ability of neurons. So what does that mean? There have been various things tried in terms of protecting neurons from death. I'm sure some of you have heard of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, other disorders where neurons are dying, and various paths were targeted to achieve neuroprotection, so protecting those neurons from dying. And what hasn't been well trialed yet is actually an intrinsic ability of these neurons to handle various stress signals to basically survive various conditions. And this is what Exonis does. And this covers really broadly various neurological disorders. So it's really, I wouldn't even dare to calculate market opportunity here at this point. The second unique thing about our technologies is they have been identified as the most potent from unbiased in vivo phenotypic screens in mouse models of neurological disorders. So it's a really fancy way of saying we have never really decided to go after one target over another for various disorders. What we've done is say, look, let's let biology to speak and see which targets are actually the most potent in achieving efficacy. These are really not trivial things to achieve. In one of the screens, we've tested over 2,000 genes, which involved about 3,000 mice. So these were not trivial things. We've done this together in Boston Children's and Harvard Medical School and have some fantastic results, some of them undisclosed targets, some of them publicly available on our website. So that's sort of built our innovating pipeline of neuron reviving therapeutics. There's 3 programs in there: excitation, inhibition, homeostasis. This is the most advanced program, heading for IND enabling next year. We have small molecule internal development, as well as one asset available for partnering. We also have neuroprotection and neuroregeneration stealth programs for undisclosed targets that are coming from the other screens. So in terms of our asset number 1, we are after KCC2, which is a CNS-specific target. It's a fantastic target that is really responsible of constantly keeping our excitation inhibition in balance in neurons. And why is that important? It really demonstrates on the right-hand side, the diagram there. It's so important for so many different disorders. If you tilt the excitation inhibition to one direction over the other, really really detrimental changes happen in our nervous system. That is really depicted on this diagram. Our lead therapeutic candidate is AXN006, heading for pre-IND. It's an orally bioavailable small molecule that enhances chloride extrusion, and that really is what it achieves the inhibition. We've done tons of studies on these and heading for the last bunch of non-GLP toxicology, and after that pre-IND and IND enabling studies. Asset 2 is the patented neurodegeneration therapeutic target. So at this point, we've screened, as I mentioned, over 2,000 genes. While majority of them are kind of where the whole field is in terms of neuroprotection, we identified one complex, but with 3 proteins in it not silencing of every single one of these targets achieves full neuroprotection of neurons from death. This is obviously an incredible result. We've run this by several people, really key people in the field, and results like that in terms of neuroprotection have not been observed before. And so we are extremely excited about this and have sort of a complicated path, or not complicated, exciting path forward for these targets, because we would like to now test them in various neurodegenerative conditions and see, does this signaling complex that we have then identified, does it really signal across various neurodegenerative conditions or versus the others? And then the other question the other area of interest for us right now is obviously developing a small molecule for one of the druggable components of this complex, and there's already work ongoing. So please keep in touch to learn more about that. So we are Exonis. We value advancing world-class science to revolutionize neurology, focus on meaningful results, not afraid of truly innovative first-in-class solutions, follow direction of science, and carefully listen to scientists, clinicians, drug developers, investors, and patients to really join us on a path to make a difference to CNS disorders and patients affected by them. Please reach out to learn more. My name is Joanna Stanika, and it's been a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Joanna. This is great. Just in case I missed it here in the presentation, what are your next kind of funding plans here? I know you've been quite successful in raising capital, but.
A great question. We've closed on a seed 2 of $5 million in July, on the last day of June. And the next fundraising should be happening Q2, Q3. So I am being approached by various investors right now, and I'm building early relationships. So I'm sure there's opportunity to talk, but realistically, a Series A of between $30 to $50 million. I'm right now working on a budget on this, will be happening between Q2 and Q3 of next year.
Great to know. And the last question is, you mentioned some toxicology studies as well as some of the pre-IND studies. Are these the key things investors should keep their eye out on?
Yes,
for the next 12
great
months?
question. The last part of the non-GLP toxicology studies will allow us to nominate development candidate. That means the candidate we think will be heading for clinical trials. So that's a big milestone for the company, and that's the milestone that's right now between us and the Series A.
Great. Thanks so much, Joanna. This is very, very helpful. And with that, we have reached the end of our presentations. We thank all the participants here. Thank you for all the presenters. I appreciate all the insight. It was really great. Please take time to connect with them. The links here for where to connect with the presenters are here on the slide, and we put them one more time in the chat. And there's additional information on our investment portal as well. And that's it. And we look forward to further conversations, further dialogue with you guys. Have a good evening, and bye now.